had camera issues. Sorry.
No problem, Marty. Nice introduction there. We are live, just gone live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to All for United WFC with me, John Foster, MUFC. Marty just about joined us in time. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing okay. I'm sorry. I was on a different browser and the camera just wouldn't turn on. So I had to switch.
That's okay. I've had computer issues for the last half an hour as well, so I've been fretting because there's so much going on and I just can't keep up. I think what we'll do is we'll call Andy, and Slater. So, Andy, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad. I don't want to ask Marty if she's got air conditioning because then I'll be jealous. We're all baking over here in the UK at the minute, but
if we didn't have air conditioning, we'd all die. So yeah, we have to have it.
No, don't be such a drama queen. Don't be such a drama queen. You want to come and feel this England heat?
Okay, has it hit 38 Celsius yet?
Not 38, 32. I've had 32.
We're not built for it.
It's 32 in the shade.
Well, Slater, how you doing up there? You look nice and summery and tropical where you are.
Yeah, dress for the weather. Dress for the weather you want. That's what they say. Oh no, that's job, isn't it? That's job they say that about. But yeah, all good. Enjoying the sunshine, not so much the heat.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same with me. Bit of a breeze would be nice, but look, we're all in a happy mood. On bit of sunny weather and a few signings. That'll do me. 13 people watching. Thank you to everybody. I'll put your comments on screen shortly. Okay, so the topic for tonight. We've had so much go on, haven't we? Fixtures have been announced, so we'll click on those a little bit. Marc Skinner, I've done a show on this yesterday. It'll be great to hear your views on this one. Our first signing of today, Hannah Blundell, so that'll be really interesting to see what people thought on that one. LJ left, obviously announced about an hour after that, kind of saw that one coming. And then later on in the day, Sophie Bagley. So all names that we kind of thought might have happened. Hannah Blundell, last couple of weeks, her name was going around, but was kind of hoping that we're going to get a striker in place of LJ. But let's start off with fixtures. Slightly different show tonight, obviously, because of all the breaking news. But of course, we'll bring in some other topics as well. But we have to start with some breaking news today. So, Marty, fixtures. Let's start off with yourself. So, I don't know if you've actually seen the fixtures released today on top of everything else.
Yeah, we start with Reading, and then it's Leicester, and then it's somebody else, and then Man City's like in October, the derby. And we're going to have Chelsea and Birmingham. I think it's Birmingham. It's the one that twists upward. I think that's Birmingham City, right? Yeah. So those are the first set. And all I'm thinking is that I want to find out what Willie Kirk does to postpone the Reading match until he has all his people at peak performance in order to play us. That's my only question I had. And then Leicester, I just hope we show up for this match. Because obviously the last match, the FA Cup, we played them. They had just gotten promoted, or they were going to be promoted. It was a fait accompli, so to speak. And I think that all the players, obviously all the players knew that it was Casey's last match. And everything was hitting the fan at that point. And I think except for that first goal, after that, I think they all went downhill, and we just looked pitiful compared to them. So I'm just hoping for a better showing on our end, and I have no idea what we're going to look like. I really have no idea because we signed a lot of people, no positions I thought we would sign, but that was surprising. And Marc Skinner, I got mixed feelings on him from an American point of view.
Well, we'll come to Marc Skinner shortly. We'll go through the fixtures first and then jump on, because I really want to hear your thoughts on Marc Skinner. Obviously, he's been in the United States for a couple of years, so I want to hear that one. But Andy, just regarding the fixtures, someone just put in the comments there, 12 points on the first 4 games. This is the first time that we've been in the WSL where our opening game hasn't been like a top 3 side. What are your thoughts, Andy, regarding like the opening group of games?
Well, maybe they finally realised that we can't play City 15 times at the beginning of the season, which seems to be the WSL preference.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Reading. I think that it's not an easy game for us. They're a bit of a bogey team. They're very physical, so it might be quite a good one to get our juices flowing again. I mean, as I say, we do get City relatively early, but again, I'm glad that we've got a bit of chance to get a bit of momentum. Leicester's a possible, banana skin because there's people that they're going to know, like Jess Sigsworth's going to be playing for Leicester, you'd assume. So you got that element to it. But I think, again, I mean, looking at it, Chelsea at home, I mean, I definitely think we could get at least a draw if needed. 12 points, hopefully. But definitely at least 9 points, I think, in relation to the first few games. I'm just glad it's not City initially, to be honest. Not that we don't like it. It's just, they're going to be in our Conti Cup. Even though it's a random draw, they're going to be in our Conti Cup group stage, 100%. And probably when we get back in the FA Cup in January, they're going to be the first team we play. And we got to play them twice this year anyway. So,
yeah, absolutely. Nice to see a name that none of us was really predicted as well. So, Slater a home game as well. What are your thoughts on the opening fixtures? Well, the fixtures all in all, because we finished with Chelsea, don't we, away? So that could be interesting.
Yeah, I think the avoidance of the big teams in the first few games, it gives. Last season, we had a great first half of the season, but second half of the season, as much as we love Casey, she didn't have us playing up to the quality we still had available on the pitch. Some of the points we dropped, it wasn't. You can't blame the injuries because the teams that were out there were good enough to beat our opponents, and we had poor performances. So it's an opportunity to put that to bed and get us playing to our standard and beating teams that we are better than, even if there are certain personnel missing. So I think that's a good opportunity to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I think it is there's a potential there. That start that season, we can really hit the ground running. I don't think there's many easy games. Even like the newly promoted side, that won't be easy. We mentioned Reading. We've come stuck against them a couple of times. But I'd still rather play those than the big games just at the start. I know Benny, who comes on the show regularly, I think he disagrees. I think he's happy to play any team because you've got to play them all eventually. But for me, I just think until we're a bit more stable, I'd rather play some of the more weaker teams just at the start. Obviously, coming back from the Olympics as well. Let's get a full squad, hit the ground running, and then I'll feel a bit more momentum going into that City game. I think I'd rather go into that City game with like a few wins under our belts, a few goals under our belts, as opposed to the first game of the season. But obviously, it can work different ways, couldn't it? Is there any Andy, is there any kind of games that you're looking forward to more than any other throughout the season?
I think, to be honest, it's almost hard to remember going to games, isn't it? It's been that long. I think it is just the little things. I'm just looking forward to getting back in LSV. I mean, if I sit there and think about it, it's always great to do a long away. So when we do go down to, Kingsman, all right, it's the end of the season, but we go down to Arsenal's ground as well, Boreham Wood. That's always a great occasion. And I've never actually been to the Arsenal away. I think it was cancelled by COVID. The season, and obviously last year we had fans behind closed doors and that kind of thing. I think, and I was just looking at it, and just practically from people that like us who go to every game home and away, I'm just blooming glad that we've got a fighting chance of getting a game against Birmingham away at some point. Could it be in October? Because it was just laughable, the quality of the pitch at Solihull, and it's all bets are off from about November till about April, when it comes to the quality of it. So if we can get that out of the way early, then at least we're not going to have any fixture congestion, which could also make the second half of next season a bit more difficult.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm trying to find the image on my screen, but I can't find it. I've saved it somewhere. Oh, I've got it. Just perfect timing. I was looking what month it was. Arsenal and City, two away days in February.
February.
So Arsenal away, Man City away. I mean, by then we'll pretty much know what kind of race that we're in. Hopefully, we'll be in a top 4 race, the top 3 race. Sorry. What are your thoughts on that one? Arsenal and City away come February.
If we can go to games, brilliant. I love getting on the away games from travelling around watching the men for years to finding a group of fans that go and watch away games for the women.
Yeah,
that's what you want. You want those away games. not just against the big teams, against anybody. But if those two games, I mean, even if we're not in the race, those are two big games anyway. Testing yourself against the best. Even if we find ourselves in the next section of the league, you still want to play them big games and you want to make them trips. So whatever the situation we're in, bring it on.
Yeah.
Big games, thick and fast, getting the trips in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to February. I think I need to book a week off that one. Marty, any particular games that you were looking out for before the fixtures got released? What games do you look for the most?
Well, obviously, in looking at the fixtures came out. We are finding out that who the manager is, and we didn't really have any of the announcements. So I do think that I think after we see Reading, who I believe personally derailed us last season. Okay, we were doing really well, and if we had just won that match, we would have been fine, and we had our opportunities, and we just kind of let them in the games too long. And they are losing a key. They won't have a key defensive person in the midfield, and that's James, because she's over here in North Carolina. So I see that as a positive for us. But they will have Fishlock back probably, or possibly not. She's signed. So I think I want to see the first match, and I want to see how we do and what our team's like, because I want to see who the heck's going to be scoring, and how our defense is set up, and whether, the new signing, Blundell, she's a center back. And so my guess is she's going to be taking Amy T's spot.
I'm hearing she might be fullback more than a centre back. I'm hearing that she might be playing.
Oh, she's fullback.
I think she can do both, but maybe more of a left back and move older to the right, maybe, or vice versa.
I was in my head. I was thinking maybe they brought her in to plug in the Amy T spot, which is very vital. I could be completely wrong, but I want to see Ivana on the pitch, and I want to see what she does, because when she was on, she was very exciting, even if it was just a short period of time. So I'm really looking at. Thank you, John. So I'm really looking at how we do against Reading. I really want us to do well against Reading, and then if we do well against Reading, I think we'll feel good going into, because we see Chelsea in the third. I would like to see them last, and maybe put them off to the following season. So.
Yeah, Vicky's just got in there a little bit early as well. Mannion coming in for Amy T spot. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the next announcement, isn't it? You think?
Oh, okay, man. But that hasn't been announced yet, right?
No, not by the club. Okay. No.
All right. Of course not.
Yeah, we'll still wait. Yeah, look, let's start moving on then. So we'll talk about the signings soon, but let's, Marty, I want you to kind of talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on Marc Skinner and his time in the US. We hear so many different things. Let me tell you kind of what we're hearing in England. So I think at the start, there's a lot of United fans who didn't see this as a fantastic appointment. It looks like it's going to go ahead, so I'm going to call it an appointment, purely based on his results in his current club. But when you do a bit more digging about his history, he actually did quite well when he was in the WSL last time around. He did really well with Birmingham, but we're also very aware that the WSL 4 years ago is a lot different to what it is now. So for me, I'm quite open. I'm in the middle. I can see. I can't ignore what he's done in the last couple of years, results-wise. But I'm not narrow-minded enough to just think that that's all he's got under, in his arsenal, because he can do a lot more with a different team. So that's my kind of perception on it. Hearing some other experts talk about him. Martin, what's your kind of thoughts on him?
Well, I did do some research on him in terms of on the, when he was at the WSL, and it looks good, that he did there. But when he came to Orlando, he had 2 seasons where he was scraping the bottom of the barrel. He and you have to think about it as being, he has Marta, he has Alex Morgan, he has Ash Harris as the goalkeeper. Okay, he's got Ali Krieger. All right. I mean, he had like jewel players, and he kept saying that he's going to implement a new plan, and we need to really, give him patience for him to implement the plan. He sold everybody on it. He said, he's fitting the pieces in. He'd get us. O'Sullivan was there a little bit. There were a couple others that came in and out. All right. And so for 2 seasons, they stunk. I mean, really stunk. Then this season, everything sort of fell in place. They went on a winning streak at the start of the season, and maybe they're in third place or second place, but third place, and everybody's tied in third place. But they're in playoffs. So it just came across, that the Orlando Pride has said that he stepped down. Okay. And so now he's going to go, and he's going to leave that team that he basically came in, and for 2 seasons they were dead in the water. They finally show up and they're playing well, and now he's vacated. Now he's like jumping ship. So I'm not thrilled by that from the Orlando Pride point of view, because they still have 2 months in their season for a playoff run, and they qualify for the playoffs. So that's serious here. Meanwhile, I understand why he's doing it, because his partner's Laura Bassett, and they have a 3-year-old daughter, and she's flitting back and forth between the UK and Florida, okay, constantly, and that's hard. That's hard on the kid. It's hard on relationship. It's just hard. So it'd be better if he was in England. I'm a little worried about our newly signed goalkeeper, though, because when she played underneath him, he put her on loan. He strongly suggested she go on loan because he favored somebody else. So I'm unsure about how that situation is going to be, because I don't know if she viewed that as being a positive for herself or a negative for herself. And then my last question is he going to come in and decide that he wants to implement the plan that he was going to implement in Orlando because he thinks that's the best plan to play, and try to do it in Manchester, for us, for the Reds, and we end up being in Orlando 2 years ago and having to go through this rebuilding season and being, like maybe 3 games away from relegation, because I don't think we're going to put up with that very well. So is he a good coach? I mean, can he coach? Yeah, he can coach. That I agree with. But, to revamp everything and come in and try to fix everything all over again instead of seeing what works well and then trying to piece it together, that's the part I'm unsure about.
So from what you've seen on social media, probably from like a lot of United fans who don't know too much about him and just seeing the Orlando results, do you think he's been kind of unfairly treated because he came into a squad of a team that wasn't the best, and it took him a couple of seasons to kind of like get the squad getting a little bit better? Do you think that he's been kind of unfair?
They didn't suck to begin with. They really didn't. I mean, come on. You have to teach Marta how to score goals. You got to teach Alex Morgan how to find the net. That's like crap. I mean, she'll run. She's like a bulldozer. She'll run over you to get to the net. I mean, he didn't have to teach him anything. He just wanted to implement how they play and a plan of playing and the parts to play with. The other thing they were dealing with is one of their players got cancer. Breast cancer was fighting that, and then you had the World Cup, and we don't stop. We don't stop for things. So the Orlando Pride did not suck before he showed up. But when he showed up, he did implement a new system. They went through a lot of stuff, and it just quite was, maybe people were rebelling against it, and he was insistent upon it. So everybody was very happy this season, that's for sure, because everybody's happy when you win. And maybe it looked like they finally got all the pieces and they knew where they were going to be. And now all of a sudden they're going to have a new coach mid-season. So, and I'm unsure, theoretically, I would think he knows how the WSL plays. Okay. But I would like him to not try to reinvent the wheel for us like he did in Orlando.
Okay.
Before I open up on what my view on the manager is, I just have a question as well, Marty, because I don't really follow NWSL that much. Has Orlando ever won it? I think they're the weakest team, aren't they, in relation to the NWSL?
No, I mean they're not the weakest team. No, they haven't won it. The North Carolina Courage is an excellent team. Uh, the
Portland Thorns are good. Yeah.
Portland Thorns. Before that, it was Kansas City, Western New York. A lot of teams have moved, which is, I know, a hard theory for in England, because you guys are grassroots, and it's all like if you move the team, it's like all of a sudden the city has to move with it. In our cases, it's not. You pop a team in a city that has population, and people are going to show up, and it has the infrastructure to sustain the team or the star. And if the star retires, like Abby Wambach, the team can't sustain it because nobody's going to go watch somebody who's not Abby Wambach play, who was up in Western New York. And so they moved that team to somewhere else. So it's not unusual that the teams get moved because it's usually financial reasons. But Orlando has never been among the thing. But honestly, the NWSL is a fairly new league in comparison. They have been around longer than any of the other leagues, but they still have growing pains. And so it's not unusual for one team to sort of bully the rest of them. But they have great players. I mean, if you look at their list, it's an A list of soccer players internationally and domestically. So it's not it in a way. Sometimes it's like an all-star team that doesn't play together, and so the coach has to get them to play together. The manager really has to figure out how to fit the pieces so that they're synergistic and they play better than all the parts. And that's pretty much how they were looking for the last 2 years. Plus the fact that the person who had the breast cancer was Marta's now fiance. So that really wrecked her too. So it was, it was just it's understandable everybody took a hit. And then you had COVID, and you had the young players who went to a bar, got COVID, tested positive, and next thing you know, they're out of the Challenge Cup. So, and I'd say I don't think Marc Skinner was a great manager for them. Okay, it looks like whatever he tried to implement really turned out well this year. Okay, and it's finally come to fruition, and I'm sad to see him go because I would have liked him to finish out the year. Okay, but stuff happens, and he has an option. He has the ability to come home to England, and raise his daughter in the same country, So I think that's very favorable for a family situation. I can totally understand that. I just don't want him to decide in his head he's got a plan and he's going to institute the plan, and we're looking at like sometimes you have to break everything down before you can build it back up again. And I would like him to be a Mr. Fix-It as opposed to a, deconstruction person. Does that make, do you get,
absolutely, yeah. Sancta, do you want to have your say on that? And I know Andy will have his say as well, because me and Andy have been speaking about it throughout the week, so I know Andy will have a fair bit to say. But Sancta, what are your thoughts on this, on the potential new manager?
I think on that last point, I think the deconstruction has just happened. We're
good point.
Yeah.
Before today's signings and before Vilda Boarisa arrived, we were a threadbare team, not a threadbare squad, a threadbare team. You could list a good attack, half of a good defence, and now we're seeing a couple of the signings coming in, and maybe, likely, Marc Skinner. So the deconstruction just happened. So I think it's a good time to start implementing a style and a philosophy. Because I think we talked about style and philosophy under Casey, but what was it? I couldn't tell you. So hopefully we will see something like that grow. And if it does take a while to come through, I think our expectations have just been reset, because we pretty much did what we should have done the last 3 seasons. We blitzed the championship. In half a season we finished 4th. Not really knocking on the top 3, but clear of fifth, and then the first full season in the WSL, we should have been in that top three. I wouldn't have expected us to, but after the first half of the season, despite the injuries, we should have held on to that top three. Mm-hmm. So I think I've seen a few comments from Jonathan Ball talking about if he gets top three, he will have exceeded expectations, and I completely agree with that. I think because we're Man United and we know the history of the men's team, we expect success. We expect to be challenging, but it does take time sometimes. As proved after Fergie retired, even from a title-winning side, you change something big, and it takes time to settle and to build back up. And I'm okay with that. If we don't get top three this season, yeah, I'd love it if we did. But if we look like we're progressing and we're building something, I can take fourth, I can take fifth, if it looks like it's building towards something. Because if we're demanding top three, or 1 point off top three, are we going to do the classic merry-go-round of managers until we get there? And what good is that going to do? Because I only became a fan of women's football when United created the team. So going off my experience with the men's game, after David Moyes, because you can kind of write that season off, we had two managers that had real success. They were real top pedigree managers, and it didn't work. So I think if he shows signs of building something and in 3 years' time we're going to look brilliant, if you can see the signs of progress, I get the impression that you couldn't see the signs of progress at Orlando for the first 2 years. I get the impression that even if they were there in the background, you couldn't see it on the pitch. But if you can see the progress, stick with it and give us some identity to follow in the long term.
Do you want to come in, Andrew, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because, like, as you say, you might not have seen on this side of the pond, Marty, what's been going on our side of the fence in that respect as much. But, I mean, there's been some ridiculous takes in relation to the decision of appointing Marc Skinner. I think, to be honest, people have been picking, like, really senior names as a management option. If we'd mortgage a family silver to get a big manager, we'd have no money for players. We had a threadbare squad. We'd fall on our arse next season. That's just a fact. And I actually quite like so far what I've seen in Marc Skinner, because I know Birmingham has had its his issues in relation to supporting the women's team, whether or not the Athletic article is true or not. But I would believe that if he's experienced an atmosphere like that, then there's no way he would sign for a club if it was similar. So he's definitely had some sort of reassurance that he's going to be given the resources, he's going to be given the budget, certainly if he performs in the way he should perform. That's our first point. I think he's kind of a step up from the kind of, I was talking like a Carla Ward position earlier before she came off the market. We were kind of looking for maybe, a manager that has very much, that basically adds value to the team, so we're talking about percentage increases really. And I think, obviously Mark did well in Birmingham. He went over to Orlando. I mean, linked to what I was saying about the question, I know it's a different culture with the national team being a bit more important than the club culture. I know I don't have the men's background that Slater has, but I can't think of a European manager that's come over and done really well, both from the sort of Premier League / WSL to American MLS or NWSL. I don't know if that's a culture change or whatever. I think Vicky mentioned in the comments that the age of the squad in Orlando is a lot older than what he's going to have over here. And I think, to be honest, if he does not perform very well for United, he's not going to get really another chance in management for a while. So again, I think to make the jump, especially, I didn't know until Marty mentioned it, especially if he's doing really well in Orlando, and the easier option would be to give playoffs a go. Maybe you could have actually, took it away. He's took a bit of a risk to come to United. I know that sounds a bit counterintuitive to what we think of United, biggest club in the world and that kind of thing. And I think, to be honest, how much we spent for Skinner, I don't know. Obviously, that's going to give us enough to build up that squad, which is what we need. And as long as he hits the ground running and he builds in a culture and he can get the buy-in from the players. And there's been multiple sort of reports, saying that the United team is looking forward to working with him. That's not really bluff, because that's kind of come out unofficially. So if he's a people person, I think give him a chance. And I think people that have been saying we should have had, ex-Champions League managers and this, that, and the other are just wrong, to be honest. There was a way of putting it.
Do you think, Andy, I'll stick with you just for 2 seconds there, Marty, I'll bring you in shortly. Just one more thing for Andy. You mentioned there about the players wanting him as well. Do you think that was one of the things that United kind of was looking at for a new manager, someone who could really get the players back on board? Because it looks like the players lost trust in the club a little bit. At least that's kind of what's been saying. Do you think that was kind of what the club had in mind by bringing in a manager who they could really respect and who they could walk to, if not already know him?
Yeah, I mean, the club obviously had in their mind what their budget was and what manager we could attract. And obviously the best managers in any kind of job get people buy into you. You buy into your manager, both on the football pitch and in other aspects of the workplace even. And I think that would have been important, because I think they probably did get caught out by Casey leaving. As we discussed, I only got interested in Man United women when Man United women was formed. They probably haven't got a long pedigree of work of dealing with the managers in the women's game. It is a different kettle of fish with the turnover of contracts that we mentioned last week, and just the difference in managing men and women in relation to just, it just being slightly a different situation. And I think probably it's more like they maybe see some stability with Skinner, and maybe they are hopefully buy into success, because I don't think United will tolerate or want to be searching for managers every couple of years. I think that they probably were sort of pushed into this, and they probably thought, right, we've got Casey, she set us up from scratch. That's the first 5 years sorted, and they've had a bit of a sort of wake up call with her leaving. And as I say, I go back to what we're saying about the fact that he's worked in an environment with little resources. He's going to feel like he's run the lottery working for United, and if he can add the value, within Birmingham, then, as I said, I don't think he would sign for a club if he's going to be in that position again.
Go on, Marty, sorry.
You mentioned that he worked for a club that had little resources. From what I have read and researched and know about over the years, is essentially he came in with a plan. He has an assistant who they hired, has been with him the entire time, and he gave the plan to management and to the owners. Now, yes, there is a cap for every team in the NWSL, so that way nobody can outspend somebody else. You can't have a Chelsea, you can't have a Man City, okay? But you're also not going to have who are the ones who didn't have any money last year?
Birmingham.
Birmingham. You're not going to have a Birmingham. Everybody has the same money, okay? So it's how they spend it, who they spend it on. And they also have access to pretty much all the youth that they could just sign them as needed for that. So he got everything he wanted from management, like in terms of the proposal and how to do everything. And considering his losing streak, okay, they did not kick his butt out of there, because Americans don't have patience. That's the one thing we do not. We're not very patient people.
The old NFL saying is, "What have you done for me lately?" Isn't it?
Oh, for darn sure. It's for darn sure. It's like as soon as you win that championship, it's like, okay, what are you gonna do next season? There is no guarantee. Chuck Noll got his butt fired, and that's 4 Super Bowls. So
But when I was saying, just to be clear, sorry for me, I meant in Birmingham he didn't have the resources, not at Orlando.
Okay. In comparison, I can understand that. Okay,
and that he wouldn't want to sign himself back into those handcuffs. I think he would have had some reassurance.
Yeah. Now, with regards to the Man City players wanting him to come in, I'm unsure about where that's coming from. I know it's more like hearsay, or they're talking to someone else and someone else has said it. But what I do know is that Amy Turner went to Orlando, and a couple others went to Orlando to play for him, that he was a benefit because he was in charge over at Orlando and they wanted to play for him. He has a good style. He's very good with his players. He has a good personality with his players, and I look forward to that. But I'm just a little worried about his system. It's like I'd like him to not reinvent the wheel. I'd like him to sort of look at things now. Could be that he was trying to get the NWSL to play like the WSL, okay? And that's where he might have gotten into a little bit of trouble, okay? Because the WSL builds up from the back, is very patient, very clinical, things like that. The NWSL is like chaos reigns. It's all transition. It's like everybody's just all over the place, and it's just athletes gone wild. So, so that could be the difference. But I'm not unopposed to Marc Skinner coming into Man United as a manager. I just wish he had stayed with Orlando this season to see how Orlando could do. So, and I can't have both. So,
Martin, one more question just before we move on to our signings for today. I've just read that his assistant Carl Green has also stepped down. I'm not too sure if you know much. Yeah,
he's gonna come over.
That's what
Carl Green's been with him since the beginning. When he got hired, he wanted Carl Green to be his assistant. They hired him. They kept both of them. They kept both of them together. And so I fully believe that when I saw that Marc Skinner had stepped down, I'm like, okay, Carl's going with him. It's just, they're two peas in a pod. And that's fine. As long as it works and he doesn't reinvent the wheel, I'm all for it. It seems like the players like him. They respect him. He has their backs when needed. I mean, he'll come out and support them, and he will do things that are specific to the girls, So, and I find that, very good. It seems like he's approachable. But he definitely is stubborn in his tactics of how he wants to play the match. So.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on. Plan for the rest of the week, by the way. So on Monday, we will have a proper show on Hannah Blundell. On Tuesday, we'll have a proper show with Bristol City fan regarding Bagley. So we just there's so much information to take in today that we just want to just touch the surfaces a little bit on each kind of signing and stuff. But Slater, we'll start off with yourself. At the start of the day, it was Hannah Blundell that was coming in, so that kind of made us think that okay, so the LJ kind of deal, probably some sort of link in there, even though it's not been formally kind of announced. But Slater, what are your thoughts on that signing?
I think when we got Honor, we thought this is a proper player. We've got a fullback that can play. But we only had one. So hopefully this will provide us a bit of balance. And it feels like it feels like for all of our 3 years so far that we're kind of a place that some players resurrect their career. They've maybe struggled with injury, or as in Leah Galton's case, fell out with the game, and this is the chance to get some games and prove themselves again. And Blundell, it seems, has proven herself before, but has faded a little bit in a very strong squad mind. Can we expect to get fullbacks that will rival Chelsea's first team? Not really. But one that has played at that level, I think she will absolutely improve us and hopefully be... If Millie Turner gets her form back, then Blundell could be the third piece of the defence. That other centre-back position needs strengthening, but it feels like she could be a huge step forward for us defensively. Yeah,
I agree. I'm a huge Kirsty Smith fan, but I do think that she needs competition. Andy, I mean, surely this is going to be our starting fullbacks now with Anna one side and Blundell the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that it wasn't another striker that came in the direct swap from Lauren James, and obviously it's not really been pitched like that. We don't know. We heard that there's going to be another player coming the other way, but it's not been this is what we got, is it, in that respect? So we only have to see that. But if that was the pitch, she seems to be a proven defender, and as Slater was saying, the more we get like that, the better defense we're going to get. We're losing Amy Turner. We've lost Amy Turner. We need to have that quality. We need to have that physicality. And I think, obviously the dream is that, as Slater said, we can't expect to get players that would knock into the Chelsea first team. However, by the end of the season, we hopefully will get them up to a level where maybe they actually would have been. At the end of the day, as I said, it's those secret squirrels, isn't it? We have to rely on our, on the scout system and on, obviously the new manager, whether it be a Casey deal or whether or not, Mark would look at it. But I do think with any new manager, you're going to get a reevaluation of the whole squad, top to bottom. And some players that were squad based might actually suddenly start first game, which is why Reading's going to be so interesting. Some players that were always starting might not, and the captaincy is an interesting question as well. But yeah, I think she's a solid signing, and I think you can only be happy for it.
I think a lot of people have said, we should have got a striker for it, and I get that because we need strikers, but we also need another fullback. We don't know who's going to leave before the summer. We don't know who's going to leave in January. We know that there's players there that don't get much game time, so they might be looking at moving sometime soon as well. So I do think that we needed a fullback, and if she was one of the best fullbacks in the league, or has got potential to be one of the best fullbacks in the league, then why not just have not straight swap, but why not get a fullback in? Just because we need strikers, it doesn't mean that we don't need defence as well. So we kind of know that the targets are out there. We know what strikers that we're looking at. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'd like to see the Beth England, but we also need another fullback. We said last season we need another honour, and hopefully now we've got someone who can be up there with her as well. LJ was the next one. Marty, I'll come to you on this one. It's been rumoured since January, February time. We kind of knew it was happening. I think the last few weeks it was getting a bit more, maybe it won't happen for another season because it wasn't announced, but I think it's always pretty much a done deal. But Martin, obviously we lost a great player there, but all in all we still need a striker to replace her. But what are your thoughts on losing a quality player to a rival?
I can totally understand why LJ's moving where she is. I think she's going to be a future star for Chelsea and also for the English team, for England, the national team. I think she's going to be one of those players that everybody's going to be talking about, and all the defenses are going to be designing their defenses around her. Okay. I do think she needs a little bit more maturity in terms of how she approaches it and her clinical finishing, in the third, the last third of it. But she's going to be extremely successful as long as she just keeps, going the track she is and just being soaking up all the experience. My question is since she, she ends up getting traded, and I'm not exactly sure if I have the terminology correct. Okay, that she gets, in my mind, she got traded to Chelsea. Chelsea took the trade and gave us money plus a person, plus a player. And we would call that player to be named later. But it should be an equivalent player. So if the fullback, Blondell, is that player, to me, Blondell was sitting on the bench. Even though she's a quality player and Chelsea is Chelsea, she's still sitting on the bench. LJ, to me, is a legitimate starter. Even at Chelsea, she's a legitimate starter. So we should have gotten a starter, not someone sitting on the bench, even though she's a quality player. And in our case, she's not going to be sitting on our bench. Okay. And that's what I don't understand about the WSL. And it could just be that I just don't have a good comprehension of the way things work in England, as opposed to, I'd be, I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait a minute. We gave away a star, okay, who's a striker and can start tomorrow. Okay. And we're getting somebody who has only played 8 games, has only made 8 appearances all last season. Okay. And the season before that, she made under 10. So it's been like a couple of seasons before she made, double-digit appearances. Okay. Now, granted, that's because they go out and buy star players who, obviously are, you have great, that are notched above, and maybe they're paying more money. And my way of thinking is okay, the more money you play, and you got to play the player, but so like what happened? So I'm hoping for a striker somewhere along the line, but I don't think we ought to do any more deals for Chelsea anymore.
It's like I want to bring you in on the LJ thing. So obviously, we've kind of got used to leaving. What do you think about should we have tried to get a striker instead of a fullback?
I think with the way it works over here, to answer Marty's confusion, I think what we tend to see in the women's game is you don't get many details about transfers. Now, it seemed to be presented as they bought Lauren James off us, we've bought Blundell off them, not necessarily a swap. There were rumours that it would be money plus player, in which case you expect the plus player to be of a lower value at least. And I think if we can get depth in attack, I think we need depth in attack. We need starters in defence. So I think for us, without the what could we get for Lauren James, I think defence is more of a priority because we have starters in attack if they can stay fit. That's the big question there. But looking at everybody, every player fit and ready to play, we have quality up front. We have substandard defence. So I think starting defenders is better and a more higher priority than depth in attack. So I would love to see one of Chelsea's attackers come. I think it would be a huge boost to us. I think one place we are missing a bit of depth is on the wings. Leah Galton is the obvious starter on the left. We like Kirsty Hansen on the right. Ella Toon, is she one of the three in the middle? Is she one of the wingers? She can play both, I think. But a bit of depth on the wings in attack would be good. If you think about Russo and Fuso up front, if they can stay fit, that's two good strikers for one position. So I think it's good that we've got a starting defender in a position that we were, Kirsty Smith's good. Is she the level we want to be at kind of good? Maybe not. Blundell potentially is. So I think it's I'd love to see a top forward coming from Chelsea, but I think depending on the details, depending on how much money we've got as well as Blundell, if it is that kind of cash plus player, I'm happy with the arrival.
What happened to Kaya Simon?
Who knows?
Well, two of the clubs was sniffing around as well. There's still going to be more announcements, and that's why I think Martha Thomas is probably more likely. But both sides
would be good.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I'm sure we'll do a show very soon on Martha Thomas joining us as well. But I think the Kearsarge one has got a bit quiet. But that's because I know that I think West Ham and Villa was knocking around as well. But I don't know if we missed the boat on that one or not. But I guess we'll see in the next week or so.
West Ham would have a bit of advantage because don't they have Emily Van Egmond over there?
I don't know much about West Ham team, I'm afraid, or anything.
Yeah, they have Emily over there, and so if Kaya, wanna, be over there, that would make sense to me. That was one of the reasons why Alex Morgan went to Tottenham with the Spurs. So, sometimes you just go where you feel automatically comfortable, But she would be good. I mean, she would be really good. She'd be a good plus. I was always like I've seen her play, and she'd be good.
We had Ben Gilby on the show, who watches a lot of Australian football, women's football, and he was saying that the criticism that she was getting on social media was really unfair, and just because obviously she plays for not many fans that obviously knew much of her background either, but to see that the teams that they play for and they automatically think that they're just not good enough. And I would take Simon not as a starter, but if you have a look at the fact that we've lost Jane Ross, Jess Sigsworth.
I forget that's a negative. Sorry.
We can quite easily. I know we got Jane Ross.
I think Simon could start. I mean, I
Yeah, I
really
agree.
do. I think Russo, if Russo's healthy, okay, we have a legitimate center, through the center. I think that's the number 10. I'm not good at the numbers, okay? I did not grow up as following soccer, okay? So football. So I think the one in the center who goes in and takes the pass and kicks it in, okay? They sort of troll around the center and the box, okay? That's Russo. And I think Ella Toon's passes are getting better, and her time with the English team, with the national team and GB, Team GB, is much, much better. My only worry is when our starters in the midfield come out, and then we got some other people coming in, and I just, especially midfield, the passing, where they're supposed to lead passing.
So would you think
and picking?
Would you think that like Simon would come in and score quite a few goals then, or was she more of a person that would sit back behind Bruce? Because I'm hearing that she's more of a playmaker, a bit like LJ.
I think she could pass. I think she could launch. I like her. I mean, I've seen her in a national team, and I've seen her play on the national team, and I think she's really a good assist maker, and she fits in well is the best way. She's not going to disrupt. It's like Ona. It's like a lot of times Ona plays so freaking well that you don't even know that she's on the field, because she does her job so solidly. She's not getting whistled at, she's not, the ball's not getting picked off of her. She's picking it off the other people. And half the time you're like, oh crap, she's just phenomenal. Kirsty Smith, she had a couple of matches there where I'm going, she didn't do anything wrong, and usually you're just going, okay, are they going to stop the ball? So, I like Kaya Simon. I'm a fan of hers. But I mean, obviously, we have the starting three, up front, but we can't only have the starting three up front. It's like what he said. It's like we need depth. We need depth at a lot of positions. Unfortunately, because we've lost a lot of players. The players we've lost, except for a few of them, I'm not really worried about. I don't necessarily think that was a huge hit for us, on some of them. On others, I thought it was horrible.
Come on, Andy. What are your thoughts on the strikers?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on LJ, I mean, I've been there, done that a little bit. I mean, no, like Vicky said in the comments, I mean, you don't want to, no team wants anybody who doesn't want to be there, irrespective of who they are. For whatever reason, wants to go back to London. That's fine. Does she have the potential to be a world-class striker? Yeah, sure. People that know a heck of a lot more about football than I do are saying that, so you've got to defer to that. But again, I can't get past, how can you be a playmaker if you don't pass? How, and there is a conditioning question there, and it's a point that I've made. But, at the end of the day, she came to us, she did well for us. She's a good player, and good luck for her. I think, maybe I've been the one who's been sort of banging the drum about we need strikers. But thinking about it, what I'm trying to say is we need goals. So whether or not they can come from the existing strikers, then great. But we actually need goals. I think there's some quirks in the women's game that I've learned. There is an annoying sort of, not mollycoddling, but sort of like weird politeness. I mean, Sancho was announced for United when the Euros were still on. I have a feeling that kind of Simon is coming our way, but they're not announcing it because of the Olympics, because they don't want to upset or destabilize or politeness or convention or whatever you want to say. I mean, that's a perfect example of maybe just disparity there. We don't know what the final list is. I don't think we're finished at this point. I think when obviously Marc Skinner comes in, he might want some of the ability to pick a couple more before the door closes, before the season starts. As I say, I think that, I've just checked there because obviously we don't really follow non-United players as much. She's in the Matilda squad. She's in Tokyo as we speak. She played against New Zealand. That is an upgrade by definition from what we've already got. And, I get that, she was on the bench a lot for a previous club or a current club. Obviously, if it's not been announced yet. But she got COVID and she had an ACL injury. I mean, you can't really read much into that. So I'm hopeful that she's going to be coming our way. I mean, obviously, the other big news is Bagley. which, you know, most people will say, you know, you'll struggle to find a bigger Marriott fan than me. I think she's a really cool person. I think she's a great goalkeeper. I love the fact that she doesn't get jostled around. She's quite stocky. She, you know, she commands, you know, the box when she's in it. But I really like this signing. I think, you know, what I've seen with Sophie Bagley, you know, she has got a heck of an attitude. The definition of never say die. You know, she started off with Yeovil, if you remember them, you know, and she won best goalkeeper that season, I think, was one of the awards that came through, on a team that essentially went bankrupt and got relegated. Then, you know, Bristol has never been a particularly strong team, but again, she shone quite a lot in relation to keeping them in it. I mean, some of their scores were ridiculous, but they really would have been ridiculous without her. And even like when she played us, and you know, there was a bit of time wasting, a hell of a lot of time wasting when we were in the stands that time a couple of seasons ago, and we all counted her down. But that's that kind of like, I can't really use the word on here, but sort of like, you know, the sort of like bit of gamemanship, the right side of the line that we're looking for. That's, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a swear word or not. Shithousery. That's what that's kind of, you know. And I think, you know, it is a proper toss-up now. It is a heads or tails job between Mary and Sophie, and I think it could go either way. Just a quick one on the other two goalkeepers. Again, you know, I mean, I think it would be unfair on Fran Bentley's career if we don't let her go, because she's not going to get anywhere near a game at the moment, and I don't think that's going to change for a long time. Rambo, we put a lot in her in relation to the academy system. I appreciate she was the first full graduate of the academy because she graduated as United Women was formed, and maybe want to hold on to that as a sort of, you know, proper homegrown talent. But I mean, you know, Sophie Bagley's what, 26, I believe, somewhere on those lines, maybe even a bit younger than that. You know, Mary's not old. I think we're in a really good position with two top quality goalkeepers. And the problem is, both of them might be too good, and one of them's going to knock the other one out, and then the other's they're going to get disillusioned. So we can end up with another problem. But I think it's a great signing, and I think people.
It's not a bad problem to have.
You know, they need to remember that, because it's the attitude more than anything else. You know, that I'm really impressed by. And as I said, I'm not that low, so I don't have 15 clubs that I support. I support Manchester United. And that, you know, and I would have said similar nice things about her before she signed, and I did to some people. I think she's a great signing.
Slater, we've come towards the end of the show, so I'd just like to hear your thoughts on our goalkeeper situation there, because it is a lot stronger than it has been for the last couple of seasons. And then there's something else that you wanted to mention at the end of the show as well.
Yeah, Mary has her fans and she has her detractors, but I think one of the things I do like about Mary is that you don't see it on telly, but in the stands you can see that she's got United swagger. She's got that arrogance about her, which you like to see. Not the kind of arrogance where you think, you know, it's cocky and it's misplaced. She looks confident, and you want that behind your defence. Now Bagley, she's a WSL starting keeper. She's not coming to, I think, from a, might not be that famous, but a previous men's keeper that signed for United said, "I'm not coming here to pick my nose." And I'm sure she's not doing that either. I'm sure she wants to play. You know, neither of them two, like Andy said, neither of them two are going to want to sit on the bench and be second choice. So yeah, it's a problem that one of them is going to get upset. But like Marty said, it's a good problem to have. It's you know, we're talking about missing pieces in defence, but we've got two first choice keepers with a lot of potential behind that might never get to see United first team because of that. So whichever one of them gets first choice, I'm sure they'll earn it, and that might mean for either one of them it means that they've improved and stepped the game up to earn that number one spot. So looking forward to that battle. And yeah, I assume the other thing you were bringing me onto was the fanzine.
So if anyone's not seen Slater on Twitter or on YouTube before, if you could just explain a little bit like what you've done in the last few weeks or months, it's probably took to get to this level, that would be great. And then just talk a little bit about your next edition as well.
Yeah, so in May we printed issue 1 of the Barmy article, which is, we believe, the first physical fanzine of women's football. It's long time been a thing in the men's game, huge part of men's fan culture, and yeah, I thought there's a thirst for content from women's football fans. Maybe we could do a fanzine. Looked into it, got it going, found out it was affordable. So yeah, the Barmy article was released in May, issue 1. Issue 2 will be out in August. Issue 1 is still available, but we have sold enough to guarantee that issue 2 will be made. So there is one thing in particular I'm very excited about issue 2, and it's, now I want to put it out there as an ex-United player interview, but it's one who played for United between 1997 and 2004. So I've referred in the interview, I've referred to, we often say the Premier League stats, and people say there was football before 1992, and it's true. And I think the club have been guilty of the same kind of ignorance for the women. In 2018, this was billed as the first ever United team, the first ever goal scorer is Lizzie Arnott. But it's not. We weren't formed in 2018, we were reformed. There was a women's team before that went through far more judgment and far more lack of resources and interest than the team are now. There's a long way to go, but we've come a long way as well. And this interview, I've really enjoyed doing it, speaking to her and making the notes and getting her experience and writing it down. And I'm really looking forward to that getting out there, because it's going to be a real feature piece of issue 2. As well as lots of other bits that are regular pieces from issue 1, fan profiles, a piece called I Was There When, where referring back to a game you've been to, which anybody is welcome to contribute, by the way. We want as many people involved as we can. There's no agenda on opinion. We want a range of opinions. I'd like to have an issue one time where there's 2 different opinions in the same magazine. We want to showcase everybody's view. It's not about what I can write and what I want to put in. It's by fans, for fans. So anybody's welcome to contribute. Get in touch with me on Twitter if you want to get involved with that. And yeah, really looking forward to actually being able to sell it outside LSV rather than just on the internet.
Couple of months time, just under a couple of months there, about 5-6 weeks time, we can do that first home game of the season. Yeah. LSV, brilliant. Yeah, we have got a father now, so I'll go on, Andy. Yeah.
A quick mention that there is also a 1-page piece in issue 2 of John's journey from women's football novice to full-time YouTube host.
Yeah, I'll be on there somewhere. I'll buy a copy. I might buy 2 copies and
mate, you were the canary in the coal line. We obviously just needed, Midlands leadership. That's obviously, the thing that started it, and the guys have seen it, and obviously we've got it for the team now as well. So
there it is, lovely.
Yeah, by the way,
I've got the first.
Night, Heather.
I've got the first copy, and for what is it? Is it £3 this Slater?
It's £1.50 for the mag. Within the UK, it's an extra £1 for postage.
Okay.
And that covers the postage itself and PayPal fees and stuff, which it will be good selling outside the ground to scrap the postage, scrap the PayPal fees, and just do it straight up.
You can't argue with that
price. To the fans.
Yeah, absolutely, Slater. Yeah, nice one. Thank you for coming on, Andy. I'll see you tomorrow night, actually, up in Manchester. So we've got a bit of a weekend planned with a few others, which is exciting.
It should be interesting, should we put it that way?
Yeah, that's going to be our first night out together as a group. Marty, thank you very much for coming on. We'd love to hear what you're saying, especially about Marc Skinner tonight, because that means a lot to us, because I think a lot of fans don't know as much as they're probably letting on. So I think it's nice to hear someone who follows the NWSL and get your opinions on him as well. So thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you for asking. So I enjoyed all the time. I'm still learning about the UK version of soccer, but eventually I'll get there. But I enjoy it, and I figure my enthusiasm makes up the difference.
It does, and we're still learning about the NWSL as well, so it's great that we can kind of learn off each other. So
it's available. It's available to watch on Twitch, I think it is. For free. So, if I get FA player, It's amazing what can happen
It's
over
time zones though. That's the problem. I'm a bit of I have a soft spot for the Portland Thorns, and getting up at 3 a.m. to log on to Twitch is a bit of a difficult one. I do it for United. So if they get as like Twitch replay where you could watch it like not live, I'd probably be there.
You can still do that. You can watch all of them. Go onto YouTube. They show them all. On a delay. Portland Thorns. I was a huge Portland Thorns fan, and then they left Heath to be available.
Oh,
yeah. So I
that was good though.
Yeah, I did. That's how I became a Manchester United fan. Is following her. So But thank you so much for inviting me, and you can always find me on Twitter. I have bizarre opinions. So.
And you can get all the links on screen, all the Twitter names, and you can find them on our retweets as well throughout the evening and throughout today's show as well. So we are going to call it a day there. Even though we're in Manchester tomorrow, having a bite to eat and a drink and maybe a little boogie, there is still a show on at 7 o'clock at night.
You just dated us all there about 20 years, mate. It's cool going out. Go on, carry on.
So which is not live tomorrow. It's been pre-recorded already, so that should be up and live, up and recorded for you tomorrow as well for you to watch. And that is it. We shall see you all again very soon. Thank you, guys.